welcome back to another episode of Smashing That Bass. What we got coming up for you is my first trip for smallmouth of 2021. Also, at the end of the video, I will show you the baits that I used and how I caught the fish. Let's go ahead and get into it. That might be the ticket right there, keeping that thing right, because they're hitting off the top, keeping it right below the surface. There's one, he took it. If I caught one, I figured it was going to be like this. I figured it was going to be on this bait like this. Run this weightless. He's a small one, but first smallmouth of 2021. There he is. There's one. Oh, it's a decent one. Oh, it's a decent one. Yeah. Oh, he's gonna bust me off on the rocks. He's gonna bust me off on that rock. Oh, come on over, bud. Don't bust me off on that rock. Yeah, that's what we came here for. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that, fellas, ladies and gents. Oh yeah. There we are. Nice old creek Smallie. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, so far we've got one on that weightless swim bait. Just popping it right underneath the surface and letting it kind of fall. And then popping it. And we just got one on this Gary Yamamoto baby crawl. Right out here in front of this rock, there's kind of like a little hole. See if we can't pull another one off of this little section here. There's another one right out of that same hole. Oh yeah. Not bad little creek Smallie. Fat boy, they are feeding up. They are feeding up. Look at that fat old thing. Feeding up. Come on, I can normally pull a couple smallmouth out from over here. Here's one, right there. Ooh, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. He's running at me. It's a good one. Oh, it's a good one. Oh, wow. There he is. Wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There he is. Good old smallmouth. There's another big boy. Oh man, I love this place. Oh yeah. Alright, so we just caught another one on the wait list. I did try a tube jig, weighted. Didn't really have any luck with it. This water right here is calmer anyways. So that weighted tube jig, I don't think they really want that. In this calmer water, I think they like this weightless. Just because it flutters down slower whenever you pop it. Water doesn't seem to be that cold either. There's one. There's one. Yeah, another one. Little fighter. Little guy, but he's a fighter. Whoa, whoa. So, oh. There he is, little fella. Alright, so I'm not going to get into the specifics as far as like rod and reel and all that kind of stuff. If you want to know that, just let me know and I can, add that into another video. I just don't want to make this video too long. Alright everyone, so these are the baits I caught my fish on in the video. At the top here is a wide gap 3/0 hook. And then you have the Gary Yamamoto Fat Baby Crawl in 3.5 inches and a white swim bait soft plastic in 3.5 inches. Now I'm not sure who makes this particular one here, but there are companies that make similar baits or the exact same bait, like Lake Fork. There's also Z-Man and Strike King, just to name a couple. Alright, so the way I rigged this was weightless. Both of these were rigged weightless with this 3/0 hook. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to rig these baits real quick with this 3/0 hook. So what I like to do is just take it, the nose there, shove the point down in, stop just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so before the bend of the hook. You run it through, you run it down, you twist it, and then what you can do is you can take this and you can mark it with your thumb as to where to put the hook. The hook is a hair big for this, but it actually does work out regardless. So what I do then is I take at the very back here, I push it straight up through, just like that. You can see how it's sitting up there, and then these baits, they have like a little pocket where the hook will sit down in, and I just pull it down. What that does is that helps make it weedless so that your hook point doesn't get caught on stuff as you're dragging it through brush or what have you. So that's kind of how that works out for that one. It's going to be the same for the Gary Yamamoto. I'll show you real quick. So as you can see, this has like the crawl pattern on top. On the bottom it's just flat plastic. I've used it both ways. When you rig it this way, sometimes the bottom will start to get tore up from the fish, and you can actually switch it and rig it this way. I haven't noticed any difference in not hooking up with fish, if that makes sense. So like I said, I start off with this. I want this facing up. So what I do from the back is I hold it pretty much upside down. I take my hook here, throw it into the back of the bait, same thing, leave about 1/8 of an inch, bring it out. You're going to want your bait upside down because of the way it's going to wind up when you're done with putting the hook in. So you bring your hook down, same thing, you twist it, do the same deal, you mark it with your thumb, you put it through, and this one does not have that little void for your hook to set in. So you can either leave it exposed, or what you can do is you can push back on the bait, push down a little bit on the hook, and then push forward. What that does is that puts the hook inside of there and makes it weedless. And that can work pretty well, you know, if you're coming through some type of brush or something. So as you see, and I was talking about before, with the way that we put the hook in and started off with the bait, now the way that the bait was made to be fished, where the more of the crawl pattern is showing and it's not the flat side, that's why you have to rig it that way, because it gives more of a realistic, as you can see here. You pop it up and it lays down. As you can see here, you have the more realistic crawl pattern on top. Now, as I was saying before, over here is what gets ripped up. So you can do the same thing as I just did, but you would do it in reverse. And that would put the crawl pattern like this when it's laying on the bottom of the river or lake, you know, whatever you're fishing. As I said before, I haven't really seen much of a difference, to be honest with you. So, you know, you can kind of get a longer life out of your baits if you do that. I noticed when I got there that the bass were kind of blowing up on top water, and I didn't have any top water with me, so I went to the next best thing. The only thing that I could make work was this swim bait here. So since it's weightless, you know, and the current's moving, the current wasn't real swift, but the water was up a little bit. So what I did is I rigged this up, I threw it out, and then I would just twitch it like this right underneath the surface. So it wasn't quite top water, but it's as close as I could get with what I had with me. And then once I would twitch it a couple times, I kind of let it fall, twitch it, you know, bring it back up, then it would fall, twitch it, it'd bring it up, and then that's how I got bit a couple times. I caught that first fish on this. I thought this was going to be key for the day, even though that wound up not being the case. It did get me one fish, and I had two get off on this. As you can see, they cut little slits out in this in the body here, and it's real thin in between the body that they did not cut out. What that does is just gives the bait more action in the water and makes it look more realistic. This is also a paddle tail swim bait here, so it kind of like kicks, puts a little bit more thump in the water if you're not using it weightless. I guess it could also put a little thump in the water even using it weightless, because you can just swim this back, but that's not the way that I was working it for that particular day. So then next we have the Fat Baby Crawl by Gary Yamamoto. Same situation. I was just using this wide gap 3/0 hook and was just using it weightless. And with this, I would just toss it out. I would work it a little different, obviously, than the swim bait. They're not, you know, really the same bait, even though they are soft plastics. So I would toss this out. I would kind of just kind of wait, let the current kind of take it down, and just kind of run across the bottom with it. I would just let the current take it, and I would pop it every once in a while. So you pop it up, let it fall, the current would take it, pop it up, let it fall. So that's how I caught my fish on these baits here. All right, now I'm going to explain to you where I caught the fish. So just like any other river, you know, the depth is constantly changing. And it didn't seem like they were really spawning yet, so I figured they would probably kind of be a little deeper. Water was a little chilly, not super cold. You know, we've had some 70, 80 degree days, and then it goes back to a 60 degree day or 40 degree day. So I figured they wouldn't be real shallow, and they didn't seem to be. Where I caught my fish were in like deep holes. As you saw where that rock was at, there's a deep hole in front of that. So what I did is I cast it upstream and I let my bait float down and right down into that hole. So what they're doing is they're sitting there looking upstream, waiting for bait fish to come down or crawdads or, you know, what have you. And then they just nail it, you know, and that's pretty much how they typically will feed in a river. So I just threw in those deep holes or even the last two fish I caught, there was a bank that was rocky, and then it dropped off, and then it would kind of like flatten out. But they were sitting on that, down in that drop off in that deeper water again, just waiting for some bait to float by so they could ambush it, and just get their meal. So that really seemed to be key, that deeper water. It was only a 4-hour trip, caught like 5 fish. Not too bad for, an evening trip. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys took something away from this. If you're new to fishing, if you're thinking about getting into bass fishing, go out there and just get into it. It's a blast.